All right, Eagles fans, let's dive right into it, because there's a lot to unpack from that Monday night slugfest in Green Bay. The Philadelphia Eagles might not have lit up the scoreboard, but a win is a win, and moving to 7-2 in a tough NFC race says a lot about what this team is made of. That 10-7 victory wasn't pretty, but it was the kind of win that defines a championship-caliber squad, one that can grind it out, take punches, and still find a way to get it done when it matters most. First off, let's address the obvious. Yes, the offense looked shaky. Yes, there were stretches where it felt like the team couldn't get into any kind of rhythm. But let's not forget the conditions in Lambeau. It was freezing cold, the wind was swirling, and both teams were fighting that bitter Wisconsin chill. You could see it in the quarterback's footwork, in the receiver's hands, even in the play calling. That kind of weather changes everything. So, before we hit the panic button on Jalen Hurts and the offense, it's worth remembering that this was one of those nights where even the simplest plays looked like survival mode. Now, if we're talking about bright spots, let's start with the defense, specifically that terrifying pass rush. This was the best I've seen from the Eagles all season. From the opening drive, they made Jordan Love's night a nightmare. They collapsed the pocket, controlled the line of scrimmage, and hit him every chance they got. You could feel it through the screen. And the newest face in midnight green, Jalen Phillips, what a debut. The guy looked like he'd been in this system for years. His energy, his timing, his pursuit, it was all elite. He was in on nearly every big defensive moment, flying around like a heat-seeking missile. 8 pressures, multiple quarterback hits, and a forced fumble. You couldn't have written a better first-game script for him if you tried. And let's give credit where it's due. Howie Roseman once again looks like the smartest man in the room. Trading a third-round pick for Phillips might end up being one of those sneaky mid-season moves that changes everything. It's rare to see a player step in and instantly look like a cornerstone, but that's exactly what Phillips did. His presence alone elevated everyone around him. Hasten Reddick fed off that energy, the secondary looked sharper, and suddenly the Eagles' defense felt like the most complete unit in football again. Now, back to that offense. I get it. Eagles fans were frustrated. A lot of 3-and-outs, some conservative play calling, and not much rhythm outside of that opening drive and the big strike to Devonta Smith. But again, context matters. Green Bay's defense is no joke. They're physical, they're well-coached, and in those freezing conditions, they pinned their ears back and came after Hurts. Still, when it mattered most, Hurts delivered that bomb to Smith. Saquon Barkley turned a short catch into a huge gain, and that was enough to get across the finish line. Sometimes that's what great teams do. They don't play their best, but they find a way to win anyway. And speaking of finding ways to win, that's become the DNA of this team under Nick Sirianni. The culture he's built is about grit, composure, and execution in crunch time. Winning close games isn't luck, it's a skill. Hurts, Sirianni, and this locker room have it. They've proven it time and time again. Every time they're in one of these late-game situations, you can feel the confidence. They know how to close. And honestly, that's the difference between good teams and great ones in the NFL. That's also why this win matters so much in the bigger picture. Because while the offense figures things out, the defense is already playing at a championship level. When you can pressure a quarterback on nearly half of his dropbacks, that's domination. 17 of Jordan Love's 42 passes were under pressure, and when that happened, he was 3 for 12 with only 21 yards and 3 sacks. That's suffocating football. You keep playing like that, and it doesn't matter who's on the other sideline. Mahomes, Purdy, Goff, it doesn't matter. That kind of defensive front can beat anybody. And that's why this win feels like a culture statement more than a stat-padding one. It's about building an identity that travels in January. It's about knowing that when the lights get brighter, you can trust your pass rush, your discipline, and your leadership to carry you through. Because here's the truth. This is the kind of defense that wins in the postseason. When offenses tighten up, when weather becomes a factor, when every possession feels like gold, a relentless pass rush is the ultimate equalizer. Now, let's talk about where this puts the Eagles in the standings, because things are heating up across the NFC. Philadelphia sits on top of the NFC East with some breathing room. They're 4 games ahead of Dallas, and when they play at their best, there's no team in that division that can even come close. The Commanders are fading. The Giants are a mess. They've even fired Brian Dable after what was supposed to be a promising rebuild. That's how quickly things can fall apart in this league. Meanwhile, the Eagles just keep stacking wins. But the race for that #1 seed in the NFC is far from over. Seattle is quietly keeping pace, also at 7-2, and they're playing tough, balanced football. Their defense has stepped up big this year, and they've been dominant at home. That's a team to watch, because if it comes down to head-to-head tiebreakers, every conference win matters. Detroit is right there too, at 6-3, and with Dan Campbell calling the shots, they're always a dangerous opponent. And you can't forget the Rams or the Bears, both in wildcard contention and capable of stealing a game from anybody. That's why this upcoming stretch is absolutely brutal for Philly. They've got Detroit next on Sunday Night Football, a Lions team that's rested, physical, and confident. Then it's Dallas on the road, Chicago on a short week for Black Friday, and a primetime clash with the Chargers. These next few games are going to test every bit of depth, leadership, and focus this team has. The good news is they've been through worse. The bad news? There's no room for error if they want that top seed. And that top seed matters more than ever. Because getting home field advantage in the NFC means playing in front of that electric crowd at Lincoln Financial Field, where the Eagles have historically dominated. Since the early 2000s, they've gone 14-5 in home playoff games. 4 straight wins in NFC championship games. The numbers don't lie. South Philly is a fortress in January. Opposing teams walk into that stadium and feel the energy shift against them immediately. That's why every win now counts double. Every slip-up could be the difference between playing in front of your fans or traveling to Seattle or Detroit in freezing weather. So yeah, it wasn't flashy. It wasn't a highlight reel game. But it was a message. A statement to the rest of the NFC that the Eagles can win any kind of fight. They can win shootouts. They can win defensive wars. They can win in bad weather. They can win ugly. That's what separates contenders from pretenders. If the offense catches up to the defense, and we've seen flashes of that explosive potential with Hurts, Smith, and Brown, this team could be unstoppable. Right now, the formula is working. Dominate in the trenches, control the tempo, stay composed late. It's not always exciting, but it's championship football. The next few weeks will tell us a lot. The gauntlet is real, the schedule doesn't let up, and the margin for error is razor thin. But one thing's for sure, the Eagles aren't backing down from anybody. They got that swagger, that belief, that toughness that defines great teams. And if this defense keeps playing like it did against Green Bay, if Jalen Phillips keeps terrorizing quarterbacks like that, the road to the Super Bowl might just run right through Philadelphia once again. Now that the dust has settled from that gritty win over Green Bay, it's time to look ahead and break down what's coming for the Eagles. Because as good as 7-2 sounds, the job is far from finished. The NFC picture is tightening up, the contenders are finding their rhythm, and the margin for error is shrinking fast. Every game from this point on feels like it carries twice the weight, especially with how the rest of the conference is shaping up. Let's start with the immediate challenge. Sunday Night Football at home against Detroit isn't just another game. It's a statement opportunity. The Lions have been one of the most surprising and resilient teams in football over the past 2 seasons. Dan Campbell has them playing old-school, smash-mouth football with a modern twist. They're tough, physical, and they thrive on controlling the line of scrimmage, something the Eagles usually dominate. But Detroit comes in well-rested, while Philly is on a short week after a bruising game in freezing conditions. That could play a big role early, especially if the Lions come out fast and aggressive. The matchup inside the trenches is where this one will be won. The Eagles' offensive line, one of the best in the league, has been tested week after week. Jason Kelce and Lane Johnson are warriors, but fatigue is starting to show. This is the point in the season where depth becomes everything. The Lions have one of the nastiest defensive fronts in football, led by Aiden Hutchinson, who's been a nightmare for opposing quarterbacks. Hurts is going to need quick reads and smart decision-making to neutralize that pass rush. Expect a lot of short, quick passes early, screens, slants, maybe even some designed runs to slow them down. After Detroit, the road doesn't get any easier. The showdown in Dallas looms large, and we all know what that means. No matter the records, no matter the standings, Eagles versus Cowboys is personal. It's rivalry football at its peak. AT&T Stadium has been a tough place for Philly in recent years, and Dallas always seems to play their best at home. Dak Prescott and that offense have been inconsistent, but they're dangerous when they click. For the Eagles' defense, it'll be all about pressure again, getting in Dak's face, disrupting his timing, and forcing him into mistakes. Jalen Phillips and Haason Reddick off the edges could be the difference makers once more. That's followed by the quick turnaround to play the Bears on Black Friday. Chicago started the season in chaos, but they've quietly turned around. They've found balance with their offense, and their defense is much more disciplined. The travel and short rest make this one a tricky trap game. You can't overlook anyone in the NFL, especially not a team like the Bears that's been on a hot streak. Hurts and Sirianni will need to keep everyone focused because these are the games that can derail momentum if you're not locked in. Then there's the Monday night battle with the Chargers, and you know how unpredictable that team can be. One week they look unstoppable, the next they can't get out of their own way. But playing in Los Angeles under the lights against Justin Herbert is never easy. Their offense can score in bunches, and if the Eagles' secondary isn't sharp, Herbert will test them deep all night long. That's where the pass rush once again becomes critical. The key to this stretch is simple: survive the grind. The opponents are tough, the schedule is unforgiving, but the reward at the end, home field advantage throughout the playoffs, is worth every ounce of effort. Now let's zoom out for a second. The rest of the NFC contenders all have interesting paths ahead. Seattle's schedule is softer than Philadelphia's, and they've been winning games with a mix of defense and clutch offense. They have home games against teams like Tennessee and Minnesota, and road trips that don't look too daunting. That's why the Eagles need to take care of business, because Seattle's not going away. Detroit's schedule is trickier, with multiple primetime games and divisional showdowns against Green Bay and Dallas. The Buccaneers, Rams, and Bears all sit in that wild card tier, but none of them look like legitimate threats for the top seed. Still, the NFC is unpredictable. One bad week, one surprise upset, and the entire landscape changes. The most important thing for Philadelphia now is staying healthy. Depth is great, but you don't want to rely on backups heading into the final stretch. The good news is that the bye week is behind them. The roster is relatively intact, and the veterans know how to pace themselves for the postseason push. What's encouraging is that the core leaders, Hurts, Kelsey, Cox, Graham, have been through these late-season battles before. They understand what it takes to keep everyone mentally sharp. This team doesn't crumble under pressure. They feed on it. Before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. Your support helps us keep delivering the latest updates on our Philadelphia Eagles. And don't be shy. Share your thoughts on the news in the comments below. The NFL world is buzzing with whispers that refuse to settle. In a shocking turn of events, the league has reportedly announced the cancellation of the highly anticipated matchup between the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Philadelphia Eagles. Sources close to the matter are hinting at extraordinary circumstances behind the decision, and fans are already speculating wildly about what might have triggered such a drastic move. Rumors circulating on social media suggest that new footage has emerged that allegedly exposes a controversial play, or perhaps even outright cheating, that could have far-reaching consequences for both teams. The images, though not yet officially verified by the league, are being shared relentlessly online, fueling a firestorm of debate among fans, analysts, and former players alike. Within fan communities, discussions range from disbelief to outrage. Buccaneer supporters are claiming that the footage shows a clear bending of the rules that could compromise the integrity of the game, while Eagles fans argue that the cancellation is an overreaction, a sign of the NFL bowing to public pressure rather than handling the matter internally. Sports talk shows and podcasts are exploding with speculation. Some insiders suggest this could spark a wider investigation into officiating standards, while others hint at internal team disputes that have somehow spilled into public view. What's clear is that no one wants to underestimate the impact this could have on the remainder of the season. As the rumor mill spins, one thing is undeniable. The cancellation has shaken the league's credibility in the eyes of many. Betting circles are reportedly in turmoil, Merchandise sales for both franchises have taken unexpected hits, and ticket holders are left scrambling for answers. Amid the chaos, league representatives remain tight-lipped, issuing only cryptic statements that promise further review but reveal nothing concrete. Meanwhile, the digital world thrives on speculation, with clips, screenshots, and commentary flooding every corner of the internet. Whether this incident will be remembered as a minor hiccup or a defining scandal of the season remains uncertain. But for now, fans, analysts, and casual observers alike are glued to the rumor, waiting for the next shocking twist in what has quickly become one of the NFL's most talked-about controversies. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay updated with exclusive news about our Philadelphia Eagles, be sure to subscribe to our channel and hit that like button. We can't wait to hear your thoughts in the comments. See you in the next video.